to the 299 News for Monday, December 26, 2022. I'm Aiden.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Cole. Boys, I got breaking news. Officials in Ukraine are demanding that Russia is removed from the United Nations Security Council, as they claim that Russia is illegally hoarding that spot, since that spot was originally made for the USSR, and after it collapsed, it's been given to Russia. And Russia's held on to it since then. Matt, you wanted to add on to something about that, though?
Yeah, recently, there's the UN has been discussing or planning peace talks around next year in 2023, around the anniversary of the war between Russia and Ukraine. It's aimed to end the war, and hoping Russia would capitulate into, where were they? There were specifics that they wanted. The restoration of Ukraine's territory that they lost, and the withdrawal of Russian troops, and the release of prisoners. I would say that is a big demand in perspective of Russia, because if Russia concedes, then that'll be embarrassing on Putin's part, because he's the one that started the war.
It'll be almost like they did all that thing.
Yeah, pretty exactly. So many Russian people died, and Ukrainian people died for. I'm mostly looking at Russia's perspective. But so many Russian soldiers died, and if Russia concedes, then to ending up with no territories gained, not even like any, that would be humiliating for Putin. And I'm not defending Putin at all, as I hope that
If they're to end the war, they should at least, the United Nations should give Russia the land that they've claimed to have annexed.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way for them to end the war, is to give that to them. I agree.
Yeah.
I understand that that's as a third class in a third world country. I can't really say anything because we don't have those issues. But I mean, the best way to end the war would be through giving them the land. If hopefully the people who live there in those areas that don't want to live there are able to leave, though, before Russia just says no or whatever, or closes off the borders.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard about this, but today, Ukrainian drone hit a bomber base inside Russia. It crashed into Engel's air base, killing 3 people. Ukraine didn't really say anything, because it's usually their policy to not talk about anything Russia-related. But, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, Ukraine has very strategically planned out their bombings, and it's worked, which is part of the reason why Ukraine's winning the wars, because they're able to launch these drone strikes using NATO-built drones and Ukrainian-built drones to strategically take out ports and bases that Russia isn't prepared for.
Right.
And it's created a new type of warfare that we need to have, we need to be prepared for in the future, because we've never seen drones in warfare until now, in major warfare.
You hear about Zelensky's Christmas Eve address.
I did. I think I heard about that. Well, no, I didn't. I'm thinking about when he visited earlier in the month.
No, it was last week.
Like earlier this week.
He was kind of talking.
That was last week, Matthew.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of something different.
Yeah, but he was kind of just talking about like you know, it should be like a season of giving, happy times, but instead, like there's gonna be families, there's gonna be like empty chairs at the dinner table, meals aren't gonna be warm, there's gonna be a loss of love, loss of hope, loss of myself, said Zelensky. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Alright, well, we can move on to Or 20 with this being the last full week of 2022, or the last week of 2022, where we at the 299 News have decided to talk about our review of 2022 as our season finale.
But first, we
So,
have
Aiden,
tech
would you like to
news
start
to
us-
get to.
Oh, tech news. My apologies. That'll be coming up shortly. Da, 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 da.
All right.
Commercial break.
All right. So tech news with yours truly. So it's getting to be that season. Next year, many phone makers will be releasing new phones, and usually Samsung's the first to go with their Galaxy S line of phones. The first one being the Galaxy S23. Now the S23 vanilla series, the S23 and the S23 Plus, are expected to see some pretty significant upgrades. In fact, all the S23 variants, including the Ultra, are going to ship with Qualcomm Snapdragon processors, which are superior to the Samsung Exynos processors they've been shipping over Europe. So all S23 phones next year are going to have Snapdragon processors. Now, as for the regular S23 phones, they are going to have a 3900 and a 4700 milliampere hour battery respectively. That's on the S23 vanilla and S23 Plus. The S23 Ultra is going to have the same battery as the S22 Ultra. However, on that phone, they're going to be downgrading charging speeds from 45 watts to 25 watts. And it should be noted that even though the S23 will be getting a 3900 milliampere hour battery instead of a 3700 milliampere battery found on the S22, it isn't going to be a 4000 milliampere hour battery like what we saw on the S20 and the S21 from a couple years ago. So they are going to be upgrading the vanilla S23 phones. As for the Ultra phones, they're actually downgrading it. Like I said, they're downgrading the charging speeds from 45 watts to 25 watts. However, even the 45 watt charging speed is nothing compared to what OnePlus has. They have 65 watt charging, which could charge your phone from 0 to 100% in as little as 40 minutes, and even 125 watt charging, which can charge your phone from 0 to 100% in as little as 20 minutes. And there's even a 153 watt charger that's being sold over in Europe that will charge your phone from 0 to 100% in as little as, get ready for this, 19 minutes. So obviously this is this is leap years ahead of what Samsung and Apple are providing right now.
Who is doing that?
OnePlus. I don't know if many people have heard of them. They have phones
I
on
haven't seen them.
T-Mobile, but
Are they European? Are they a European company?
I think they're actually they're owned by Oppo, which I think is a Chinese company. So,
Yeah, a lot.
yeah. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. I knew about the 65 watt charging, but I didn't know about the 125 watt charging. They can't sell the 150 watt charger in North America, because of regulations on like how many watts you can have in an outlet. So it's kind of understandable, but
You are correct. It is a subsidy of Oppo and is Chinese.
yep. So
Oh.
all right, moving on. Apple is going to be updating its line of MacBook Pros next year with the M2 Pro and M2 Max chips. Now, going off topic, on a personal note, I have a 14-inch MacBook Pro M1 Pro. It's basically the base model, but it's got a 10-core CPU instead of an 8-core CPU. I'll safely say it's a really good computer, but the M2 Max chip is supposed to be about 22% faster than what's on the M1 Max, which is a huge increase. The M2 Max is mainly going to be focused on improving graphical performance. So if you're into like Blender and that kind of stuff, that might be more up your alley. But that's the main thing going on with Apple. Heading over into gaming, the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, but privately has acknowledged that he doesn't see Xbox Game Pass as being a threat to the PlayStation ecosystem, which is really interesting because the FTC is actually suing Microsoft because even they think Game Pass would be harmful to PlayStation, but Sony doesn't care. So, it just kind of makes things awkward. And kind of a silly little thing before we wrap up tech news. Microsoft is going to be adding tabs to their Notepad app. We found this out because internal build of Windows 11 was leaked by a Microsoft employee and clearly showed tabs being in Notepad. Which, I didn't even think we needed tabs in Notepad, but they're in the command prompt, they're in File Explorer, so I guess everything in Windows 11 is getting tabbed. Yeah, kind of weird.
Oh, I guess I know somebody who's not working at Microsoft anymore.
Who?
That guy who leaked it. He's now currently unemployed, looking for a job.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of people at Microsoft that have done that over the years, over the last 20 or 30 years,
And all of them have been fired.
Yep.
Oh.
I have a question.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Why does got the name? Why does PlayStation think of Xbox as a threat, or Xbox whatever
Game Pass?
Game Pass?
Game Pass? Yes. Why do they think that is a threat?
They don't think it is a threat.
They don't.
They don't. They're just like, that's a stupid idea. Who wants to pay $25 a month to play whatever game they want? Maybe we should just sell it to them for $60. Oh, and when the PS6 comes out, their PS5 games won't work because they're not backwards compatible, They're just... Sony's kind of weird. I'm more into Xbox personally, but I haven't bought a system since the 360, so...
The system you got, Matt?
I got Xbox Series X. And I would say, I've played PlayStation before. Only... What do you got, Cole?
I've been looking... I got the Xbox One right now, but I've been looking for one of the new ones.
Me too. Go to the Microsoft store. You can
for
find
over
one on
a
the
year
Microsoft.
now.
Cole, go to the Microsoft store. It's on there.
I did.
No, like
there
actually
now?
go to the Microsoft store. Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Okay.
I think you can order one.
Okay.
I haven't ordered one myself because I don't have the money for one. But
They're expensive.
yes, $500 expensive.
That's
That's all.
I got lucky with mine.
Buddy, be quiet. Be quiet.
Listen,
Be quiet.
I
went
listen.
to the story.
I went
Hail
to
Matthew.
GameStop. Was in like that.
GameStop.
No, it wasn't.
I haven't heard that name in forever. Oh, you might not want to say the town name.
Some random town of some random state.
Yeah,
We
It's
live.
Albuquerque.
We live in Alaska.
yeah. I could tell. It's very cold up there.
I went. I got it at a GameStop. I just walked. I walked
Just walked in and asked for it.
Yeah, I said, "Hey, do you got the Xbox Series X?" And then the lady didn't say anything. She looked behind her and just put her hand on us, like you're indicating, "Yes, we do have one."
Was it
She was
free?
just like,
Did she just give it to you
No.
for
Your
free?
kid, take it.
Yeah, she just gave it to me. I'm kidding. It was like
Dude,
$500.
she was fired later that day.
And then I
Also
told
wants to
my
be fired on our podcast.
and then I told a friend about it. That that's where I got the Xbox Series X, and he went to the same GameStop and got it.
No,
What?
No shit.
Hey, yo, I gotta go there now.
I'm
I'm
going next week. I'm going next week. It's
Yeah.
official.
gonna make the 2-hour trip now.
Is it still sold out? Like,
Let me look at
Stores near
Microsoft
in the
real quick.
stores near me. It is.
Yeah, all the stores. I don't think they have it. Amazon's like, it's like an invitation thing or something like that. It's kind of weird. I don't want to log into my Microsoft account. Do you have an Xbox for sale?
We should put a poll up for our viewers. How many of you have an Xbox Series X? How many of you got the new Xbox?
Probably be like 2%. Check availability.
Anybody who has it is too rich.
Hey.
It doesn't feel that much different from the Xbox One. I guess it's more fancy
Well,
looking.
I've never had an
and
Xbox One, so I'll never really tell the difference. It'll be like light years ahead of my 360.
Yeah, that's true. But and I use the money.
Guys, I can buy one.
Dang,
It's
I gotta do that. How much you want for it?
$4.99
Double it.
full price.
All right, here's $5.
No.
I'm doing all the dirty work for you, friggin' freeloader.
No.
All right. Anyway, let's get to our 2022 year in review now.
All right, Aiden, start us off.
All right. So 2022 happened.
Really?
Yep. The ball dropped, and yeah, the year started out pretty sucky. So that was nice. So 2022 started out sucky because pandemic, inflation, supply chain issues, blizzards.
European wars.
That was February. That was when Putin
Still the
decided.
start of the year.
That was when
It's still the
Putin
start.
decided to start gobbling up parts of Ukraine.
Okay, but let's be fair. He started putting troops on the border in January.
Yeah. Or even I think maybe even December. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, so,
Definitely by
like,
January, he was putting troops in.
Definitely by January we knew it was coming.
Yep. And then February 24th, 2022, the news broke, war in Ukraine had begun. So that was when things really started getting ugly.
Should we explain why or what caused the Ukraine war?
You want to do it, Matthew, or do you want to both do it? Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, I can
Because I have a good grasp of it, but if you want to do it, then
yeah, I can initiate it, and if you want to add on to something, you can. You definitely
right.
please
I'll
do.
interrupt you. I'll
Yeah.
interrupt you midway through.
During the Cold War, Ukraine was under the banner of the Soviet Union. And it was until the fall of the Soviet Union that they gained independence.
Correct.
No, yes, no.
They declared independence before the Soviet Union was dissolved.
Oh yeah, that's true.
1990 is when they declared independence. Get your facts right, Matthew.
You know, you mother. You know what, Cole? You know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna show up to your house and beat the shit out of you.
You've lost your train of thought now.
I can't remember when it happened, but during the 2020s, the Ukraine was showing signs of joining NATO, but that threatens Russia's this or Putin's ambitions to reclaim old Soviet countries, Soviet puppet states.
Are you talking about the second Russo-Ukraine war, or the first one? First one where they take Crimea. This one?
Yeah. Yes.
What about the first one?
The first one happened in 2014.
2014 when they take the
Crimea. Yeah. They they took Crimea. 2014, Russia took Crimea. You know what? Well, how about leave me alone? If you want it,
be making fun of Matt for 5 minutes.
I'll explain the fundamentals, the basics to it, but then I'll let you go. I lost my train of thought. Cole kept interrupting me.
Crimea War. No,
Crimea War.
Yeah. Well, not the Crimea War, the Russo-Ukrainian War in 2014.
Yeah, the Russia takes Crimea in 2014, and kickstarts a rebellion in eastern Ukraine, supported by Russia. These rebels in the east were supported by Russia. And in 2022, Ukraine or NATO was inviting Ukraine into the organization. But Russia saw that as a threat to their security, and because NATO is an enemy to Russia, and has always has. So if Ukraine, so in Russia's perspective, if Ukraine joins NATO, then NATO has spread its influence right on the border to Russia, and Russia and Putin are, especially Putin, are paranoid about an invasion because Russia has always been a victim of of invasion, and Putin from he has ambitions to reclaim lost puppet states after the collapse of the Soviet Union. That's you can see.
I get it's really weird though because he contradicts himself though because he's already stated he doesn't want Belarus to be a part of Russia ever again. He's already stated that there's land that he doesn't want. It's only Ukraine that he wants.
I think so. Maybe
I don't know because they're the only one that isn't highly supportive of Russia. Like
yes,
exactly. They're like the only Soviet state that isn't still a part of like Russian influence, which is why I think they're constantly going after it, is because they're the only one that they feel like is out of their sphere of control.
Exactly.
And then when they feared that Georgia was running out of their sphere of control, Putin declared war on Georgia too, claiming that there was multiple rebellion groups trying to break free, which is where Putin sends his Sad Vlad sends his military in. And apparently there's two countries that broke away, but turns out Russia's the only one that recognizes them. So they don't really exist according to the UN.
So essentially, any country who steers away from Russia's side or Putin's side is considered an enemy and is pretty much is targeted by Putin. And that is for example, Belarus is close relations to Russia and is very much in common. They're common with each other.
Yeah, but the funny part is that Lukashenko and Putin really don't like each other. Lukashenko has to pretend like he likes Putin, or else he's gonna get killed by him. Because I don't know if you guys ever heard about the 20. I don't know if you guys ever heard about the 2020 Belarusian rebellion. Where in the 2020 election, there was a I can't remember her name. It was really, it was very Slavic, and I couldn't pronounce it. Her husband was a vlogger in Belarus who vlogged about the terrible things going on. He was killed, and he went missing, and eventually came out that he died. She ended up running for president of Belarus in his honor, and she had no idea what she was doing in politics. She was a more Western outlook. She had all these people coming to her speeches, chanting for her. She had a lot of support. But then when it came to election time, it turns out that Lukashenko actually had 80% of the vote. And nobody believed it. So so she ended up fleeing the country. I think she went to Latvia. Riga, specifically. But there was a mini rebellion. There was a riot at the capital. But Putin sent in the military to calm it down, and we're back to where we started, basically. And that's where we're at now, in Belarus, still to this day, where Belarus, for all the Hoi 4 players out there, is a puppet state of Russia, basically at this point.
Yeah.
They're a puppet state where Russia basically really controls what happens there. I think many of the post-Soviet countries are Russian puppet states. Like definitely the Central Asian ones, definitely all the Stan countries, because they rely very heavily on the Russian economy for their economy. The Baltics have basically broken away from them at this point. The Baltics haven't. I don't think Putin could care about the Baltics because they've already joined NATO and the EU. I think he is worried about it, but Ukraine is definitely like the largest, most important like remainder of the Soviet Union, because obviously he can't recreate the Soviet Union. He can't just annex all the land. That's what's going to get the attention of NATO and the EU and freak out. So I think in this new era, in the 2000s, you're not gonna. I don't think there's gonna be as much annexation of land. I think there's going to be more of influencing countries, much like the Cold War. The Soviets never really annexed land; they just installed what they could control. The U.S. did as well, installing dictatorships, whether it was more democratic or more communist. And I think we're seeing that today, now with post-Soviet, pre-Soviet countries, in Caucasus, in the Central Asia. And what Putin's trying to do in Ukraine with trying to recreate the Soviet Union, but a sphere of influence rather than an actual country.
Yeah.
It's because there's a quote I have by him. You can talk while I go find it.
Yeah, it's today it's no longer such a direct annexation, like you said. It's more indirect through like politics and manipulation. And with the age of social media, that definitely is a bridge or opens the door for that type of influence.
So here's a quote by Vladimir Putin himself at a press conference. This for those who whoever does not miss the Soviet Union has no heart. But whoever wants it back has no brain. Which is very interesting. So, because a good piece of knowledge for our viewers, I think we've already talked about it, but for context, is Putin was a former KGB agent, in a very high position in the KGB. He was specifically chosen by Boris Yeltsin to be his president afterwards. In 1999, where he's been in control since then almost. He's been president since 1999, except for one exception in 2008 to 2012, when the Russian Constitution stated that he was not allowed to. In Russia, you can be president as many terms as you want. You cannot be president for 3 consecutive terms. So that would have been his 3rd consecutive term. But he was prime minister that year, so really, he was kind of still in control. And he basically he was like, "Hey, buddy, why don't you go take my spot? I'll tell you what to do." Yeah, and I think Dmitry Mendeleev was his name. He's still still in a high position in the Russian government, and he does support what goes on in Ukraine. So it is very interesting to see that he's still plays a big role in Russian politics. And where was I going with this? And then after 2012, when Putin is reelected, he increased the length of a term in Russia. Originally, it was 4-year terms, but now it is 6-year terms. Where he's also talked about increasing them again, because in 2024 it would be considered that would be the end of his 2nd term. I think he's done some tinkering to the Constitution to where he can run again in 2024. But we'll see if he makes it till then. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That's some illness he has.
Throw back to season 1.
Go check out episode 1.
Yep.
And so another aspect I thought would be important to consider is that Russia and Ukraine have similarities cultural-wise, but politically they're different. So it has a complicated, very conflicting relationship. Putin believes, because they're culturally the same, that Ukraine should be part integrated into Russia, or not integrated into Russia, but closely related to it, have influence from Russia, have connections. But Ukraine has grown to adopt more of Western ideologies, democracy, and stuff like, and
a more Western outlook.
Exactly. So they're much different from Putin in Russia, who, yes, is a democracy on paper, a democracy, but really, for as what we just discussed about how many terms Putin has run, it's obvious it's not a very strong one.
I don't think I'll do a Google check, but I don't think the Russian Constitution's ever been amended. No, it was written in 1991, obviously, when the Soviet Union broke up. I know it has a lot of articles, but I don't think it's really been changed. How many amendments are in Russian Constitution? Structure provisions, amendments. Last time it was amended was 2020. Proposed by Vladimir Putin himself. And it was the second substantial amendment, with the first one being in 1993. So there's only been 2 major amendments, and that's it. Been a lot of proposed amendments, but only 2 of them have ever been put intact. And I'm guessing this is the one that allowed Putin to increase his term.
Yeah, probably. You said
so,
when was
January 2020. January 2020. But interesting story that kind of connects to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And so let's go all the way back to episode 1. Episode 1, episode 2. Matt, you remember when we talked about World War One? The effects of World War One, and then we went into the communist revolution. In 1917, I think you've probably heard this story before. But Ukraine actually declared independence from Russia in 1917, and was temporarily their own country until 1919. Sad Vlad, but instead it was Vlad Lenin, decided he didn't like that. So, Ukraine and Finland both declared their independence from Russia in the 1917, I think. And Vladimir Lenin took back Ukraine, but left Finland for some reason. I don't know exactly the reason why, but I know Ukraine would end up getting re-intact in the Soviet Union, obviously.
Because
interesting question for the both of you. So, is the Soviet Union a country, or is it a union of countries? What do you guys think?
a union of countries.
Yeah, I'd have to go with that.
Because many people, I agree with you guys, but and it's referred to as one country, but people got to realize it's a union of a bunch of different countries, all under the provision of Russia, of the Russian Socialist Republic. Okay, so I don't know. I kind of thought it connected to the topic because it almost seems like Ukraine and Russia have always been at conflict with one another. They've always had conflicting interests. Stalin's the famine in Ukraine in the 1930s that I think we touched on in an episode, where Stalin decided to no longer feed anybody in Ukraine, and millions upon millions died. But anybody outside of the Soviet Union and in other countries never heard about it. There was even a New York Times writer who went to Ukraine to go explore, and he never wrote anything bad about what was going on there. He never said there was a famine, because he was shown the areas that weren't affected by the famine, and he was also bribed a little bit.
Maybe what you just said about the famine in Ukraine could be a result, because Ukraine grows like a high percentage of grain. So it's possible that this is Stalin. Yeah, Stalin. Deprived Ukraine of, or took all of its grain to feed its own Russian people.
The cause Well, apparently the cause of this was for Stalin to assert himself as the major power in Ukraine. He was asserting dominance. That was his way of doing it. Kind of like how Mao asserted his dominance in the Cultural Revolution, by just killing everybody. It was the same thing, but Stalin had to do it his way.
So it was an intimidation to keep Ukraine under.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was an intimidation to keep Ukraine under the control of the Soviet Union, of Russia.
Makes sense. I've seen that happens. I've seen that happen so many times in history where, like the bullies of history try to use intimidation on others to try to keep them under their influence, so they are dominant or can maintain dominance. But it doesn't. I just think that doesn't work. That doesn't always work.
Sometimes
It works sometimes, but
it worked in Ukraine. It worked in 1933 Ukraine. Millions of people died. Ukraine never really had a revolution there until the 1990s. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm supporting it because I don't, but it worked. Cultural Revolution in China didn't work. And I mean, the purge in Russia, it worked to an extent. Until you find out that Stalin killed the doctor that was supposed to save him from a heart attack. And he ended up dying, which is kind of ironic.
And I
Go ahead.
well, I'm thinking like from during the American expansion westward and removing Native Americans from their lands.
Yeah.
It's in that sense the United States, their tactic was to puff out their chest and act tough and tough or intimidate the natives, but it didn't keep the natives from revolting or rebelling against them.
Right.
They didn't win, but they didn't
They didn't lose.
They didn't lose.
I don't think they lost. The natives did not lose.
They lost the wars that were against. They lost the wars, but they fought. I said they didn't back down.
I mean, we're still talking about them, so it's already a win in itself.
Yeah.
I feel like story-wise for the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So Ukraine, when it first became independent, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Commonwealth of Nations. Oh, what is? I think that's what it's called. The common. The common. Did I get it right? The Commonwealth of. I'm talking about the Russian one though. The Commonwealth of Nations is the British one. It's the Russian one.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Many the Eurasian Economic Union. Maybe that's it.
I think that's Eurasian.
I don't think that's it either. One second. Pull it out.
Is it with the Soviet Union?
Give me 1 second.
Not NATO.
Commonwealth of Independent States. The Commonwealth of Independent States. This is the original. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia created the Commonwealth of Independent States as a way of creating an alliance between all the originally Soviet countries and an economic union between them. And it was a way of Russia keeping them in control, even though the Soviet Union had broken up. And countries that were a part of the Commonwealth of Independent States included Uzbekistan, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Belarus, and Russia. And Ukraine did originally join it, but after the Crimea War, and the first Russo-Ukrainian War, and before then, they announced that they were leaving the Commonwealth of Independent States.
Makes sense.
And it does make sense. It does. It does.
It
It does. And
But does it?
But does it? And let's make a note though that since the Russo-Ukrainian war started, the Ukraine has applied to both NATO and the EU, and has applied for it to be up to go through the application progress faster than most countries will. And if you keep up, you can know that Sweden and Finland are also trying to join NATO. Finland's the big one though, since they share a larger border. They share a large border with Russia. And Finland has been militarizing their borders since the beginning of the war now.
Yeah.
Heavily. And Finland, I do know, has a lot of bunkers, nuclear bunkers, and they have a whole world underground almost, where there's like schools, playgrounds, internet. There's over 5,000 bunkers, which can save its entire country's population plus some, plus a few more million. So, if you want to live somewhere safe from nuclear fallout, go to Finland before the world blows up. Live your life underground with the Finnish people, and still get an education there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You become one of those doomsday preppers.
We have been, definitely. I would probably do that too if I were bordering Russia, and I had a large border with Russia.
If let's say, wait, I have a question. If you could, would you get a bunker in your house?
Am I safe from a nuclear war?
Yes.
Yeah. No question about it. No? I'm the wrong?
No, I would totally get one.
I would too.
I feel like most people would. You could. I mean, if
you can
once
afford
the world
it, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah. But once the world blows up, it's gonna be really bad. If the world blows up, we're gonna be sent back to the Stone Ages, depending on what we bring underground with us. So, like, it's gonna be like Fallout, basically.
Fallout 4, but in real life.
Basically. For all the Fallout players out there. Because I mean, in Finland, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Great Winter War. Most people have heard the story of the White Scare, where the sniper where they all wore white blankets over the snow. It was basically Russia's version of Vietnam, where they all went in handy dandy. Stalin's all like, "Oh, easy war, we're gonna win it." And basically snipers in white blankets and all white clothing, hiding in snow, killing a bunch of Russian troops. Because it all started from a conflict where Finland's border was very close to St. Petersburg, Leningrad at the time, and they asked for them to move their border back, but Finland kind of said, "Yeah, no, thank you." And yeah. The Soviet Union actually gained land from this war, but it wasn't much. And if you look at it, I encourage the viewers who are interested to look further into it. It's very similar to the story that's going on in the Russo-Ukrainian war, where they gained a lot of land immediately, and Finland launched a counteroffensive, and then Russia lost their land really fast, and then cut their losses and gained what they had left, and then ended the war. The difference was that Finland didn't have the support of the West, which is why Russia was able to cut their losses and gain what they had. So.
Then in May, a certain document from a certain justice leaked. And it was threatening to overturn a certain piece of legislation passed in the 1970s. And then in June, it happened.
In June, the right for... Why is my alarm going off? The right for women to have an abortion was taken away. Not completely.
It gave
was
the states the right to choose whether they were going to allow abortion or not.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It was given rights to states to decide whether they want abortion or not. I remember I got a heated debate with a few of my friends about that, and it's a few states have I can't remember which ones have decided to ban abortion. I hope we explained that well.
Oh. In August, well, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, next major event that I wanted to bring up was in late August, Ukraine launched their major counteroffensive to regain the majority of the land that they had lost in the Russo-Ukrainian war so far. And it was a very successful counteroffensive, gaining much of their land, causing Russia to panic about the results of this war. Leading to them to hold a referendum in 4 regions of Ukraine. I'm gonna pull up the name of them right now, but to decide whether they were going to be annexed into the Russian Federation or not, and those regions were in. Drum roll, please. Some point we'll find out. Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. Okay, oh boy, Zaporizhzhia, where coincidentally all 4 of them voted to join Russia. It came out that Russian soldiers with guns went to each house individually and told them to vote. Yes was in very big letters with a giant checkbox, and no was in very tiny letters at the bottom, according to the story. Turns out the majority of the people chose yes, with guns pointed at their heads.
You said the majority, so there was a group of people who said no.
Yes, there was a...
Who were those?
Yes, each region had at least 80% of the vote to say yes, and one had 99.7%. That was the highest. The lowest, I think, was in the mid-80s. I can pull up the exact numbers if you want. So we're gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up my good old friend Wikipedia. Yeah, the greatest one. The results. So in Kherson, it was 87.05% supported the annexation. In the region of the Donetsk, 98.42 were in favor of this. In the Luhansk, 94.15% of voters voted to join Russia. And in the Zaporizhzhia, 96.78 voted to join. Or no, 90%. 90% voted to join. So as you can see, all of them were very high. But one of those regions in particular is, even by the West, is considered to be a communist region, where their state government, or their region government is very leftist. So.
And then in September, word broke that Her Majesty the Queen was in failing health and needed to seek immediate medical attention. And shortly thereafter, her family gathered to join her by her side, where she later died on September 8th, 2022.
And if I remember correctly, Queen Elizabeth II was the longest reigning monarch in the history of the United Kingdom.
I think so. There might have been another,
Yep.
but I think
But she was the longest queen.
Yeah, totally. No.
Mm.
Longest reigning queen. So that was a huge story that broke in September, and obviously a sad story at that. But and then there was one more major event that happened in 2022. I'm sure many of our viewers might know about.
Can I present this?
No, I will.
Aww.
On November 1st, 2022, the 299 launched for the very first time with season 1, episode 1.
That's not where I thought you were going with this.
Oh, what did you think I was gonna say?
Elon Musk buying Twitter.
Oh. 'Twas a minor headline. We
Hey guys, Elon Musk bought Twitter too in 2022.
Yep. And
Don't
we
forget
totally
that, viewers.
and we totally didn't spend a whole season poking fun at him for doing that.
We promised in season 2 that we will not be doing that as much.
Yep.
No, I like Elon Musk. I really do like Elon Musk, so I don't have much bad to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not the worst person.
Not a terrible
the
person
world,
like we've made him
no.
out to be.
Yeah, we make fun of him for fun.
This is all for publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really think a lot of his contributions are pretty cool.
I am gonna be curious to see what he does with Twitter though, if he does actually step down or not.
Yeah.
As we talked about in the last episode, that he might step down. Bill maybe should read the title of the video.
All right. So that's all right.
So that's 2022 in a review.
Yep. And now we were here. It's the end of season 1. We've learned a lot. We've done a lot.
Learned a lot.
In just 8 episodes. Next time you see us, it will be season 2. It will be 2023. And trust us, it's going to be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, this is Aiden signing off. That's Cole.
Matt.
And that's Matt. And
I'd like to make one big announcement to the viewers for season 2. After some review, we are going to for our history. We're gonna start at a different place this next time. So I know we're midway through the Cold War, but we're gonna move on to something completely different for our history topics, so that we can broaden our horizons.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Hence our Twitter bio.
I don't want to leak what we're starting with. It's an event that many people are very familiar with, America especially. So, yes. So come back for season 2 where we don't make fun of Elon Musk.
Yep. And with that, I'm Aiden.
I'm Matt.
And I am Cole.
Signing off.